Welcome all. I'm Kate Brummy, Senior Vice President at Mass Challenge, the global network for innovators. I'm honored to be here today with colleagues from Citizen Bank to explore what is now an undeniable trend to align values and value in the way individuals and companies save, spend, and invest. In fact, in 2020, environmental, social, and governance, or ESG, sustainable and impact investing were one of the fastest growing areas of asset management and accounted for more than a third of assets under management. With this in mind, it's definitely fair to say that sustainability and ESG have moved from the background to the boardroom in virtually all major companies around the world. And as we'll see in today's conversation, this has impact in both how companies set priorities internally and how they're meeting client needs today. I'm really excited for this conversation. So with that brief introduction, let me welcome our panel today. Rachel, welcome. It'd be great to hear a little bit more about you and your role at Citizens before we dive in.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And thanks everyone for expressing interest in this presentation. I'm really happy to be with you today. I recently joined Citizens as head of sustainability, where I'm responsible for the enterprise-wide sustainability strategy, including the exploration of sustainability-related business opportunities, risk management initiatives, and corporate efforts. Prior to Citizens, I spent a decade at JP Morgan, where I was responsible for leading our inaugural sustainable bond issuances and also created and announced the Sustainable Development Target. Again, so excited to be here and to have this conversation with you and with Pat.
Awesome, thank you. And wow, what a perspective you bring to this conversation. So this will be fun. Pat, welcome. Say more about your role and context here for today's discussion.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I don't carry quite as much swagger as Rachel does. I head up liquidity here at CFG for the commercial space. I've been here about 6 years. We just released our first liquidity product associated with ESG and green investment. And I'm eager to tell people about it.
Well, I know we're really looking forward to going deep on that specific product as one of the many examples of the work Citizens doing in that. But before we get there, Rachel, I'd love to have you sort of set us up with the context here. What are the forces that are contributing to this seismic shift in thinking about sustainability as a core business imperative today?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the question. Sustainability across the board, and I think it's very fair to say climate specifically, has really never been such an area of focus. Stakeholders across the board are mounting pressure on companies around the world to take greater action, to announce commitments, to have policies related to a broad range of environmental and social considerations. Investors, for example, are expressing more and more interest in ESG dedicated strategies. Assets under management, as Kate, you referenced, in ESG dedicated funds have increased materially over the recent years. And interestingly, there's been a significant uptick in environmental and social related shareholder proposals, and also those proposals actually passing at companies in all different industries. From clients and customers within the financial industry and across the board, there's more interest in products and solutions that are related to supporting the transition to a lower carbon economy, which I'm so excited we're going to be able to talk more about today. From a regulatory and a policy front, there are headlines all the time, all day long in this country and around the world about different ways in which regulators, policymakers are focusing on environmental, social governance, ESG topics broadly, but again, with a real dedicated focus on climate specifically. In this country, for example, we're expecting action, more guidance just in the next couple of weeks, months from U.S. regulators, and that will have a significant impact on how companies are responding to these pressures. Employees, I know, at banks, but employees across the board care about these topics. Many of them do, and in many cases, they're looking to work for companies that have aligned with the environmental and considerations that are important to them. And finally, across communities, from community organizations to community activists, there's more and more pressure on companies to pay attention to environmental and social considerations and then to take action. So truly, it's across the board, but with all of our stakeholders at Citizens, but generally around the world, we're seeing that stakeholders care about these topics and they're demanding more and more from companies.
Wow, I mean, it is such a multifaceted effort. And just to sort of call out one thing and have you confirm, this is not just about expressing values anymore. This is about creating or protecting value. Is that right in how investment products are being developed and internal strategies are being pulled into the forefront?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think you're hitting on such an important point, which is that this is not a nice to have, but this is a need to have, and the transition to a lower carbon economy specifically presents so many really compelling business opportunities. That has implications on the commercial side, on the retail side. I think there are a lot of different places where companies are taking significant steps and seeing a lot of demand from clients and from customers all across the board.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Thank you for sort of highlighting that. And, this brings new ways of thinking, new ways of doing business that I assume are requiring change within citizens. Tell me a little bit about what is going on internally to realign how you work with sustainability and ESG goals.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of activity that takes place across the board, and colleagues, partners that I've had the chance to work with just over the past several months that are increasingly focused on this topic. Certainly more and more partners, again, in the business, thinking about business opportunities related to sustainability. Also colleagues in risk and a whole variety of corporate groups that are hearing about an interest in sustainability from their own stakeholders. And it's fair to say that this isn't specific to citizens, but there's been more activity, more focus on sustainability from our regional peers over the past several months and years. And there's a lot of activity also at the big banks, both in this country and around the globe, where sustainability is an area of focus. I see more and more reporting related to sustainability. So for years, we've seen corporate social responsibility reports, environmental social governance or ESG reports, and now there's more of a focus on dedicated climate reporting, again, representative of this really significant focus on climate specifically. But there's also so much activity from a business perspective, more and more sustainable bond issuances, sustainable financing targets, and more innovative sustainable finance or sustainable business solutions, where again there's activity across the board, both from a commercial and a retail standpoint.
Yeah, thank you for that. And sort of one more question just on the big picture, and then Pat, we're going to come to you to really understand how this is playing out on the client-facing side. Is it's impossible not to shine a light on the importance of equity as we think about climate governance and social issues today, facing or internal. I know Citizens has been proactive in the space of addressing diversity, equity, inclusion. Can you tell us a little bit about how that factors into the work you're doing in this area?
Kate, I really appreciate you asking that question. One of the areas within the broad world of environmental, social, and governance work that we're particularly proud of at Citizens is our work related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DE&I initiatives. We're making commitments and weaving DE&I work across the board into what we do at Citizens. We're on a journey, but are really proud of the commitments, the investments that we've made in our colleagues, in businesses, and I'm particularly excited to find opportunities to connect some of that work also related to some environmental initiatives, some of the work that we've been discussing related to sustainability broadly. A lot of that work is discussed in our corporate social and responsibility report, which just came out this past summer. And again, I'm excited for different ways that we'll be able to report on the progress that we're making, the commitments, and the announcements that we'll have over time.
Awesome. Thank you, Rachel. Pat, I'm excited to turn to the topic at hand. And so let's start with, from your perspective, how have these ESG or sustainability forces been influencing how you're approaching on the product services side?
That's a great question, and it's it's been a bit of a journey. So let me start by borrowing or building on some of what Rachel spoke to. So, in the industry, shareholders and stakeholders across every walk of life are really demanding one another pay attention to and be accountable to improve environmental, social, and governance issues. And, as we think about that, as a bank, we are committed to creating a healthy and sustainable future for our stockholders and our shareholders. And, that's had a profound impact on how we serve and support our clients. And we recognize the critical role that we can play to help finance and support sustainable investment and sustainable development. And we want to share in that journey with our clients. One of the ways we can get there together is by delivering products and services that are mutually beneficial towards that common goal. So when I think about ESG and how it's changed our approach to product development and innovation, I would say that it's really embedded in our thinking today, not just from an opportunity perspective, but also from a risk perspective. We still need to deliver for our customers, and our approach has shifted in a way that also addresses broader stakeholders. The goal here is to create positive sum products and services in the market.
Great, thank you. Thank you for Pat. And I think it's so interesting to sort of tease out the opportunity and the risk management side, and maybe you can comment on that further as we get to into detail on the novel product that you alluded to at the top of this panel. Let's bring into focus one recently introduced offering by Citizens Bank, green deposits. Just to orient us, tell us a little bit about sort of what this is, how it works, and then, I want to unpack how it came to be, but let's help the audience understand the what and the how first. And I think you have some slides.
Yeah, so, it's a product that was really brought to our attention from the engagement we have with our customers. We're constantly talking to clients to inform our development roadmap, and ESG has been on everybody's mind. It's really an important issue at the global level, and there's a constant flow of news and information businesses and individuals are constantly processing. So, there's a lack of common standards in the market, and that makes it difficult for businesses to mobilize on ESG. So clients, we heard from them, and they're looking for ways to demonstrate an awareness and commitment to sustainability, but it's complex. Talking to folks, they're not just concerned about their business's image at a superficial level. People are personally vested here. And that personal commitment to improving the environment, it really does carry over to their professional lives. That's why I think ESG is such a force when it comes to a company's brand. We talked a little bit about, risks and opportunities. I mean, on the risk side, it's obvious, that ESG policy, it really does impact consumers and customers' buy decisions. It's similar for prospective workers, especially millennials. We know that it plays a role in how people select where they want to work and who they want to work for. Maybe not so obvious impacts to funding and access to capital for business from a risk perspective. Shareholder groups, as well as institutional and retail investors, they've really started limiting access to capital for businesses that aren't sustainably minded. And we hear about it every day in the papers. And there's some big names out there that have made some pretty bold statements about who they will and won't invest in or grant access to capital. And it really is driven by ESG. And then, another one that we've really seen in market recently, ESG can really have an impact on supply chain. We're seeing in some cases ESG qualifying criteria in the product procurement process. Specifically, some are noting exclusionary criteria in their RFPs to rule out doing business with vendors that aren't aligned to their own ESG principles. Our research showed that most businesses outside of the large corporates, they faced a lot of challenges with the ESG program. Large corporates have resources to establish their program. That's not necessarily the case outside of the large corporate space, and there are limited investment options available in market there. So, what if you could imagine or magnify your CRS actions and your mission with minimal effort? You could enhance your brand, you could reduce customer churn, you could increase customer loyalty. Most of the products out there today, like green bonds and green investments, are really geared for companies with sophisticated treasury and finance teams that can really manage the market and credit risk associated with those instruments. And so we started to think, how could we as a bank help businesses get there? And that's how we started down the path on green products. If we flip to the next page, you get a fair amount of research and engagement with clients and prospects that are out in the market. And we heard a lot from those companies in terms of, their appetite to be part of the program or to develop a program or to launch a program. The program today, it does allow clients to demonstrate their commitment to the environment by supporting eligible green products and companies such as renewable energy, sustainable water, and forestry. Their deposits go toward specifically supporting green assets. For each dollar they deposit, an equal amount is held in an environmental lending portfolio. And because it is a deposit account, it's extremely simple for the client to participate in the program and to manage the program. It's really a passive investor for the client, and really that eliminated and solved for a significant amount of the complexity with respect to really mobilizing in terms of developing ESG strategy. We did partner with a leading ESG firm, Sustainalytics, to develop the eligibility criteria for our qualifying assets, and they're published out on our website as part of our green deposit framework. Sustainalytics also provides for us an annual review and certification of our program. If we flip to the next page, there's really been a lot of excitement around the product with both associates internally and with clients. We've onboarded about a handful of customers. We're still in MVP, so we're limiting the distribution of the product at the moment as we learn and improve the beta version. But we're off to a really great start, and it's resonated really well with our clients so far today.
Pat, thank you for that, and congratulations. This is really exciting, and certainly I know I look forward to hearing more about the impact the product's having. You mentioned it's in sort of MVP stage. Two questions. One is, what have you learned during the development of this product that may be useful for our audience trying to think about how they too can create and bring to market novel solutions? And then, what comes next? When do you anticipate it to be more widely available?
Yeah, I mean, the business opportunity is very compelling, and, talking to clients and sharing those findings with clients, as I mentioned, people are passionate about these issues as individuals, and that carries into their professional lives. And so, folks are really looking for these solutions. And so there's no shortage of ideas or thought leadership in terms of what to develop next. I think it's pretty easy to articulate the risks associated with keeping ESG in the spotlight. I think it is important, though, to realize that, the lack of standardization, in the market has created, I think, some pain, and there's a lot of education that's required out there. And so, there's a lot of white space associated with really servicing clients in what it is that they want to do. They know what it is that they want to accomplish on a broad scale. It's difficult to understand how to accomplish that. And so, the more you can do around ideation and idea exchange, understand their business, I think the better it is. I think one of the challenges for some of the businesses that we spoke to is really just developing sort of that department or that expertise internally so that you can start to develop a strategy. What we are seeing emerging is companies that are developing either teams or groups that are, let's say, cross-functional across an organization that are coming together to pull together ESG strategy. And there isn't a great awareness all the time at every, at every department in the company that's happening. And so when you engage with clients around ESG, sometimes it could be a challenge to really get to the right party to understand what it is that they're trying to accomplish and really engage with the right folks.
That was going to be my off-schedule question or follow-up, which is, it sounds like there's sort of significant latent demand, if you would, but the process of sort of selling or navigating to the buyer is still complex given how nascent this area is. Is that fair way to summarize, or?
I think that's very fair. And if we think about sort of how it's come to market, we heard about it a little bit a couple of years ago, and then last year we heard a lot more. And this year it's just in the news and the spotlight every day. And so this thing is accelerating at an accelerating rate. It's really top of mind for everybody that we talk to. And, not everybody typically thinks about their bank when they think about ESG strategy. A lot of folks are thinking about carbon and carbon offsets. But again, we're on our own journey in terms of ESG and creating a better environment for our shareholders and stakeholders. And, there's an opportunity for us to all partner in this collectively. And if this is done right, it really feels like a win-win-win across all three groups here, whether it's a client, the bank providing services to the client, and ultimately the consumers of those services or of our client services. And so that's really what we're striving for.
Yes, it's an awesome ambition, and I think one way maybe I'd summarize it is it's no longer a question of if, like the movement is here, but it is still very much a question of how, and that's the work we're all doing, and you've sort of brought into the forefront today. Really exciting. What's the best way for folks to sort of follow the work you're doing around green deposits or engage to learn more?
Yeah, so we do have our website, which really lays out our framework of what we consider in our wheelhouse of green assets and how the program works. We are working with clients. It's been a great experience. As we've rolled out green, the adoption rate's been pretty good. But as we sort of introduce the product, it really is engaging for clients, and it really helps ignite additional thought on additional products. And we've taken some of that feedback and have already started working on our next generation of products that, we hope to bring to market soon. So, the best place to stay in touch is right directly on our website.
Okay, great. I'm sure you can't share yet, but it sounds like a little bit if you give a mouse a cookie, then all of that, but hopefully we'll have a really positive ripple effect. I know we're coming close to time, so I want to just step back in the last question, and Rachel, come back to you, and then Pat, have you finish up. So what can you offer to the audience about what it takes to bring ESG and sustainability into the spotlight in your organization, whether it's in internal facing efforts or client facing? Rachel, what can you share?
Yeah, what I would recommend is to make the business case, and that's getting easier and easier to do. The fact that our stakeholders are focused on sustainability, the fact that the world is transitioning to a lower carbon future, that there are such compelling business opportunities that are related to that. Research that I just saw from Princeton University indicates that there are $2.5 trillion of additional capital required to get us to that lower carbon future. That should be compelling to any business leader. It doesn't matter if sustainability is personally relevant or not, but make the business case, show the facts of what is required for the world, what demand we're seeing from customers and clients. I think that is a recipe for success.
Wise words. Pat, please, what would you advise our audience?
Yeah, I agree with Rachel. The business opportunity is very compelling, but I think the verbatims are very easy to gather. Get out there and talk to clients and then share that information, across the organization. People really do care about these issues at a very personal level. They're passionate about these issues, and, that carries over into their professional lives. And then, again, I think it's pretty easy to articulate some of the risks. I mean, it's in print every day in press, and whether it's, clients, whether it's associates and attracting talent to a business, whether it's protecting your supply chain or ensuring that you have access to capital when you need it. I think those are all very easy to sort of work through and very compelling reasons to keep ESG at the forefront.
Pat, thank you for that context. I know we're at Boston FinTech Week, and innovation is a theme. when you're talking innovation, it's always good to hear the origin story and how these innovative solutions came to be, as it's rarely a straightforward path. Tell us a little bit about the process from initial idea to being having an MVP in market today.
Yeah, that's a great question. When you think about ESG, deposits and liquidity aren't exactly the first thing that come to mind. So it's a bit of a non-traditional path here that we took. We're lucky to have an innovation board internally. We present ideas to our innovation board, and the board provides funding and some expertise and support with various tools to help through the ideation and the development process. You know, we did get an investment from our investment board, and that allowed us to really go much deeper on the resources in the research. We really went to market quickly prototyping and sharing different versions of a potential product with potential users and gathered that feedback. I think it was, paramount to really bringing the product to market. I mean, one of the things we do in the liquidity team, we do a lot of ideation through what we call hothouses around thinking about how we solve problems, whether they be traditional problems around liquidity or non-traditional problems that may be addressed with liquidity, but folks maybe not thinking about liquidity as a solution. So we tend to tap the investment board quite a bit, and they have supported us. And this is just another area where they have supported us. And this is one that we were able to move quickly on and bring to market with some success.
So exciting. I love the idea of having sort of a mini startup within a large company with the same need to pitch the idea and secure funding and demonstrate that proof point. It sounds like that's exactly what you did, launched a mini startup within Citizens.
Yeah, no, it really allows us to remove ourselves from the confluence of our BAU activities around development and product development and innovation, and really, to your point, it puts you in a different mode where you're really, I think, thinking in a more nimble fashion and really reacting as you gather information and press forward. It really is like operating in a startup. It allows you to run with some great ideas, and I would say that the time difference in development between one and the other is pretty significant.
Well, there are obviously differences, but certainly from idea to funding to MVP, and I guess what we'll look forward to next is the scale up. Awesome. Well, Pat, Rachel, thank you so much for spending time with us today to shed light on these awesome and important trends in sustainability and ESG, which, as I think you've clearly made the case for, present meaningful opportunity for financial institutions and others who not only care about this, but are looking to create value for their stakeholders and shareholders. So thank you, and we'll look forward to tracking the work you're doing.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.